from an undisclosed location in the Great Western Desert in the land of the free and autonomous Native American people, the 2024 presidential campaign in exile to return all US land back to their rightful owners. This is the Ben Zion Podcast.
Techno-communism. Welcome back to the Techno-communism Podcast. I just had a very productive meeting and a series of meetings with a film producer, a friend of mine, Mike. I've been working with Mike on using AI video generation and related tools to make a feature-length film adaptation of the graphic novel Falcon X Omega Point, about a group of AI researchers who build an artificial superintelligence that in turn helps them take down the military-industrial complex, bringing peace and a new era of prosperity to this world, as would happen if the United States, this fascist abomination that you've come to accept, were to cease to exist. I've assembled elements of framing a device, the introductory sequence. This is going to be a little bit different in tone from the graphic novel. It's going to employ some voiceover and this framing device, not unlike that of the film Sunset Boulevard, wherein a person in this voiceover describes their how they came to die. And there's a lot of wind blowing in Phoenix today. It's quite overcast at this moment and a bit windy, still having effects of Hurricane Hillary and other weather effects hitting this region. We didn't get too much rain. Some thunderstorms around the county from Hurricane Hillary, but nevertheless, it's unusual. It's been a most unusual year for weather. I'm not going to get off on a tangent there. I look forward to sharing with you more of the materials from this Falcon X movie, which I'm using right now. I'm primarily creating the bare outlines of action sequences. Primarily using an AI video generation tool called Pika Labs, which is something that you could, doesn't have a traditional interface like you would have in an app or a website. What it has is a Discord server, but this a simpler design from their perspective is something that allows you to use this service for free. And a little frustrated with it because I've been using it so much that they've frozen me out from making a lot of generations. So I will give the descriptor describing this cyborg character and doing some action. So I've been frozen out of making these AI art generations, basically because they're doing too many generations at once. When I get an AI prompt that I like, then I'll redo it like 5, 6, 7 times. And then, out of that, maybe there'll be 1 or 2. These are generally 3 seconds. Maybe there'll be 2 seconds of those 3-second clips of 2 or 3 of them that are kind of useful. And but Pika Labs doesn't like you using 100, creating 100 generations in an hour or something. So I'm gonna maybe set up my old Discord so that I can alternate between them. Maybe that'll allow me to be doing the output that I want to do. I was going to talk about this. I've talked a lot about the need for building a humane and sustainable economic system using the most powerful of tools, advanced computing systems, which are not really recognized for the power that they have, or the people that do recognize them, and they are viewing them through this lens of the capitalist system that the West suffers under, And so they're viewing them as little more than baubles and trinkets rather than real tools to uplift humankind. I'm reminded of a quote from a former CIA director who apparently had seen the light a little bit, or at least had a moment where he was being more honest. And this CIA director is William Casey. He said, "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false." And in this networked world of the last 15 years, I believe that certain aspects of that program of disinformation have become easier for them to undertake. That is, AI is being used to accelerate Western fascism and the necessary deception that goes into that, rather than dismantle or curb it. And why am I saying this? Why am I referencing this? William Casey, a person who's better in most respects forgotten and dead. Because I've been talking a lot about the problems of tech bros, tech cultures, techie things generally, the capture of both the technology and the culture surrounding tech. And I've often focused on transhumanists and futurists because they're particularly ridiculous. But they are the victims of this larger disinformation campaign, just as much as anyone else. It doesn't mean you should waste your time working with them, but you should empathize with this problem in trying to maybe deprogram people like this a little bit, because it's not just a few techies, it's not just a few nerds, it's literally hundreds of millions of Americans who suffer from the same fascist sympathetic programming. And but you use this reference point again of transhumanists because these are tech accelerationists, people who believe that something like artificial superintelligence, advanced computing systems and paradigms can and should change the world, remake the world anew. It's, of course, as I've said many times, incredibly suspicious that this one group of people who are most focused on remaking the world anew using these most powerful tools that have to ever exist are people who are more conservative in almost every respect than the average person worldwide, even more conservative to some degree than the average American in most areas. So how could these people be expected to be successful in changing the human form or remaking the world when almost everything in practice that they believe or do, it would seem to be in service to the fascist West, militarism. Most of these people, many of these people work for military contractors or firms that are supportive of that set of systems. If they're not working for them directly, they're spending an awful lot of time with people who do. They're upholding that system in almost every respect. So going back to this so-called this disinformation program, that's an accurate description. You have people who I can think of quite a few futurists who either saying more or less the same things that they would say on Fox News, MSNBC, or CNN to do with the Ukraine conflict, to do with China policy or ratcheting up tensions with China. None of this makes very much sense for a genuine techno-futurist to be saying these things, but you can barely find a person who wouldn't, when prompted, be repeating these State Department approved narratives unconnected from reality. This is not something limited to techies, right? Because you basically have two parties who are One is the Republicans, who are in foreign policy just the anti-China party, complaining about China all the time. And you have the Democrats, also neoliberals, both far-right parties in every respect, both militarist parties in every respect. But you have the Democrats, the good guys, relative to these Republican baddies. But those good guys are an anti-Russia party, overwhelmingly. So you have these simplified narratives, these unmeaningful things that have come to be accepted. These are overwhelmingly this disinformation campaign that's described decades ago, and even in decades prior, when the concept of Project Mockingbird was articulated. This fascist creep misinformation, disinformation campaign, wherein various sectors of media are captured to be, to varying degrees, fascist sympathetic, right? Fox News is highly fascist sympathetic. MSNBC or CNN are no better. You have other media subsets that have this to varying degrees. So you have Marvel Comic Universe, for example, $1 trillion media properties, which are run directly through a CIA office CIA media office, whose job is to see that as much as possible, which is very much, so all fun summer movies depict the U.S. empire in a positive light, and insofar as they can insinuate certain strategically selected set of CIA talking points into these water cooler conversations without seeming to have done so. And you can scarcely find any aspect of popular entertainment or media in the United States that's not influenced to this high degree. And this is how you get something like two major parties who seem to be adversaries doing absolutely nothing but upholding militaristic narratives centered on either one adversary or another, doing very little. This is the function of the military-industrial complex to siphon off $1 trillion a year of resources that should be going toward domestic U.S. projects, but that's instead spent on triple billing defense contractors and vile things. And you have to have these false narratives around that to drum up support for this. And so how can you have people in the West who are accepting all of this having any chance of building a better world? There's no chance. And that's why, for the sake of simplicity, I say that the only person that you can trust to fight for a better world is a communist. These are people, because these are the only people who will state unequivocally that they're willing to stand up for a humane and sustainable economic system. And so there's there's really no wiggle room there. A lot of tech people describe themselves as some kind of anti-establishment or anarchist-like personality, but this very idea of being anti-establishment, it's an overgeneralization of the problem, because the problem is not institutions themselves. The problem is fascist institutions. So when you overgeneralize in that way, and when you have many millions of people overgeneralizing in that way, almost every anti-establishment personality in the West overgeneralizing in that way, what you're left with is a completely ineffectual and effectively anti-communist, anti-establishment profile. That's, I can list off any number of pretty influential futurists and tech people who fit that description, And when you say, okay, what do you think about communists? If they are prompted, then they will start repeating this anti-establishment drivel, start talking about totalitarianism and the perils of dictatorship. This is not even real meaningful concepts, right? You live within this fascist West, the real dictatorship that's murdering the planet and giving you no recourse to keep it from being murdered. So to overstate potential dictatorships that would stand in opposition to that, and by and large, not dictatorships at all. It's the action of a fascist sympathizer. You won't find any anarchist who really deviates from this. You won't certainly won't find any tech person who is much better than this. 1 in 1,000, as they say. I'm going to read an article that changes gears a little bit. This is from August 18th, 2023. Aryan Kashal. This is from orfonline.org. Sci-fi to reality, brain-computer interfaces in medicine and beyond. While brain-computer integrating brain chips with medicine to restore basic capabilities for those in need holds promise, the broader implications of merging technology with life are divisive. Science fiction often envisions futuristic technology to have mechanisms that enhance or restrict cognitive abilities. This rapidly advancing field of technology is called brain-computer interface systems. Brain-computer interfaces use brain activity and brain signals, analyzing and translating them into commands to allow users to control external devices. Though this technology has been used in various applications since the late 1800s, its most widely known application, the neural chip, evolved after 2 centuries of progress. In the neural electrophysiological recording procedure, neural chips are inserted in or near the brain to track brain activity. While universities and research institutions actively pursue research in this field, Elon Musk's Neuralink has emerged as a leading mainstream commercial entity in the neural chip industry. Founded in 2016, Neuralink aims to provide those with quadriplegia, a symptom of paralysis, the ability to control mobile phones and computers with their thoughts. I believe, this wetware approach to this problem is probably not going to prove to be the thing that does it or the best approach. I think I would even go so far as to say this is a kind of an Elon Musk doing what he does best, mostly in the field of greenwashing, which is creating sham products that would tend to make people feel better about a problem, but actually make the problem worse or do nothing to stop those sectors that are killing the planet. Similarly, associating this with wetware, brain surgery, as opposed to, say, wearable graphene brain-computer interfaces that could do the same thing and with much less regulatory trouble and risk to human lives. This is an intentional smearing of this entire sector of brain-computer interfaces by having it associated with something monstrous and horrific, and something that might then be just made illegal because of those elements. And that's not mere speculation. You can look at an awful lot of companies that make brain-computer interfaces that are able to help people that require no surgery whatsoever, and that should be where the money is going. Neuralink's extensive research and experimentation to reach the stage of human implantation readiness includes its tests on animals like pigs and monkeys. However, in February 2022, an animal rights group accused Neuralink and the University of California, Davis of violating the United States Animal Welfare Act. In December, the U.S. Department of Agriculture initiated a federal investigation into Neuralink for potential violations of the Animal Welfare Act. Yeah, that was kind of the plan all along. I would posit is very likely this thing that could change the shape of civilization, allowing people to interact. I just did the very last show talking about how Claude.ai or ChatGPT could allow you to be your own research institution, not beg for money from others, do the project or work that you've always wanted to do. Ultimately, this kind of thing pretends the possibility of people becoming more or less, for lack of a better word, self-contained entrepreneurial entities in great number, allowing them to organize on that basis, allowing them to exist in defiance of a wage slave system and in defiance of private wealth. That's not something Elon Musk wants. Elon Musk likes a system where he's on track to be the world's first trillionaire. This brain-computer interface thing, while more speculative, more a emerging technology than an existing technology, could nevertheless have a similar effect and more pronounced effect in terms of the ability to unite these now more emancipated human beings into common purpose in defiance of the system that's killing the planet. What are these people doing? Well, the same thing they did with OpenAI, where they Peter Thiel and Elon Musk got on that board pretending to want to protect human beings, but really wanting to protect private capital, and then perverting that organization into something that is not open source or OpenAI at all, but more importantly, serving private wealth without seeming to do so, too much directly seeming to do so. So that's what's happening with Neuralink. This gets a lot of press for this very reason. So then the idea of brain-computer interfaces can be rejected by an uninformed and very fearful populace, and also then rejected by regulatory and institutional frameworks that would otherwise perhaps be allowed to advance this potentially game-changing technology if it were being focused, if the research and public interest were focused on, say, these wearable graphene-based brain-computer interfaces. So the animal deaths and concerns for human welfare are very significant. I suggest you read this. There's also some talk about the medical potential and